Hello there, good evening, and welcome to your final. Oh, now, right, so I need to start by. I was going to go straight into my usual gig where I welcome all you guys, and before we hit the intro, Dougie was just his normal face on, and now he's put a mask on, and I urge him to keep it on for every show we do between now and the end of the season because it's a lot better than what we traditionally used to stay at. We'll start again. Hello, good evening, welcome to it's your final Sunday show of this year. My name's Scott Patterson. If you're joining us on YouTube or X or Facebook, I'm really grateful for you doing that. It's been a miserable day, and we're going to discuss a disappointing afternoon at Tynecastle for Rangers today. Rob, how are you? How are you doing?
Apart from the football, I'm okay, mate. It's been a nice weekend, wrapping Christmas presents up, That's it, getting ready for the big day. But football ruined it.
Yes, again. Sheryl, how are you?
Do you know what? That's actually been the highlight of my Sunday. So thanks very much, Dukes, because that was as good as it's got for me so far. So cheers. Cheers, Grinchy.
And Grinchy can hear, and by God, it's not the first time I've called you that. How are you?
I don't know if you'll actually be able to hear me, but I am shite. Rangers has ruined a perfectly good weekend.
So what you might need to do is you might just need to keep it on. So welcome to the three of you. Before we do get into the afternoon events at Tynecastle, big thanks to our show sponsor who have looked after us for the duration of the season so far, the local darts shop at all the W's, localdartshop.co.uk. If you're into your darts, these guys can help you out muchly, all things darts and accessories, including your installations with boards and lights, and they do all your installations at your local pubs, clubs, function halls. They keep you on target, and we urge you, if you're into your darts, to jump on and have a look with them guys. And notwithstanding that, looking after the podcast for the duration of the season, CSD Air Conditioning, Black Rooster, Athol Industrial Solutions, Candide, Rhino Express and Art of Gold have all been good enough to support us this season so far, and by God, do we need that support. Rob, listen, when we go into these pods, we try and do a bit of an agenda. It's been difficult to do today because there's quite a deflation, I think, in the way we maybe felt mid-morning on the build-up to the afternoon at Tynecastle to how we feel now. Rob, what was your feelings going into the match, I guess, in the first instance? Was there an element of confidence based on what we'd seen up to this morning?
I think confidence is a difficult word to use. I think more optimism, probably, Scott. I think if you look at where we are now compared to where we were when we first played Hearts, and we should have beat them at Ibrox, had it not been for a couple of dodgy decisions. I was optimistic we could take something for the game today. Performances hadn't been great, but Danny Rule has found a way to set this team up to be able to deliver results. You look at the away game at Easter Road, where we didn't play particularly well, but we managed to kind of get the 3 points and stuff. And I think it was that optimism that I went into the game with today, knowing that this was a great opportunity for the players to step up a little bit and show that they had the stomach for a fight.
Yeah.
But that was rudely shattered by the performance that we saw, unfortunately, over the course of that 90 minutes today. And I think that's the underlying thing. It's just the disappointment that yet again we've been outfought and outworked by a team who clearly wanted it more than us. And it's no disrespect to Hearts today; they thoroughly deserved that victory. But yeah, it's the optimism that goes away to pure disappointment when you actually see the performance and the result.
Sheryl, now before we came on, you kind of gave us a nudge and you said you weren't as bullish about a trip in Edinburgh as maybe as others were. And I fall into the category of being reasonably confident going there today. I felt, based on what we'd seen, we had a decent opportunity to go there. Moreover, that they were missing Craig Halkett, who I think has been one of their best players this season. And if he maintains the form that he has shown earlier on, will probably work his way into Stevie Clarke's World Cup squad, I think, for next year. Sheryl, you weren't sort of oozing with confidence at all, were you?
No, I was saying to you guys, I was surprised by the amount of my friends that were actually really confident. For me, I think we've just got through the last set of games against kind of poorer opposition by the skin of our teeth. And the performances haven't been great. Maybe give or take Kilmarnock, but Kilmarnock are a poor team. And then Stuart Ketwell obviously got the sack after they played us. So I wasn't as confident. And I think the main reason as well, and I said it to a few people that I'd been talking to, for me, my biggest worry was the players realising how important this was, and how big an opportunity it was. And from what we've seen on the pitch, after the first 20 minutes, they just didn't get it. And it's the same problem that we go back to, guys, that there is a serious lack of leaders. There's a serious lack of guys that can rile everybody up, can get that message through before the game and on the pitch as well. Those two goals, that, well, I certainly felt at the time, there was no way back. There was nothing that I seen on the pitch that gave me any hope that there was any way back for us. After the first goal, let alone the second.
Dougie, Sheryl refers to sort of leadership. We're going to come to that in a second, because I think it's a big area that we have very little in, to be perfectly honest with you. But I mean, yourself, I've asked Rob and Sheryl what their thoughts were going into the match this afternoon. Were you not brimming with confidence? You certainly don't look like you were. Do you think it was something that I personally would have went there and been quite happy to come away with a point, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that would have been a decent result for us today, considering some of the players that they've got and some of the players that we already know can give the opposition problems. Tynecastle, small ground, fans are right on top of you. There's barely any of us there compared to recent seasons. Where were you? Confidence levels, Douglas?
I'd have bitten your hands off for a draw. Tynecastle's a hard place to go. Let's not kind of make a mistake about this. And I said before we came on, I feel like today's the day that we lost the league. And I'm probably just being a wee bit over dramatic and emotional on the back of what was a big opportunity today. That's the bit that kind of pisses me off right now, is every time there's a big game that the players need to step up. And you're not talking about a small group of players, you're talking about the entire squad. We don't take it. Yeah. And we actually started off quite well, but see the minute we conceded, our arse collapsed. We just fell apart. And as a squad, we're not good enough. Hearts wanted it more than us, which is just criminal, considering we should be going for a league title. And this was our opportunity to put real pressure on both Celtic and Hearts above us. But the mentality's poor. And actually, today I thought our big players were terrible. I really did. And we'll come on and talk about it. But Raskin, somebody actually said during the game to me that he'd have Devlin in the squad over Raskin, and that just speaks volumes, because Devlin's not actually that good a player. Devlin's a bit like Barron in terms of he's very energetic, he's industrious, he's not very good with the ball at his feet, but actually he was everywhere today. And it goes back to that whole Hearts just wanted it so much more than us, and guys like Nico Raskin just coasted it in, to be perfectly honest, and he wasn't alone. Butland's got that in him. Butland's been excellent this season, but over the course of the season he's going to cost you 3 or 4 goals over the season, and unfortunately it was a big one today. And again, it is big ones that Butland tends to cost you. And go back to the League Cup final under Clermont as well. It is the big ones, and I think that's what's really frustrating me about this leadership team. It's non-existent.
It's interesting when you talk about Devlin. I actually got a message from one of my friends who said that Devlin sort of reminds me of a 2025 version of Ian Black. Just runs about and becomes like a pain in the arse for 90 minutes without actually being a really, really excellent player. Obviously, maybe a different Ian Black to the version that we had the pleasure of watching for a season or so. But I understood the meaning of it. Your opposition just having a player that steps up when one of the Old Firm come to town. And I think seeing someone sort of maim the game, if you like, in the way that he done this afternoon was really quite interesting. We lined up this afternoon. Butland in goals, back three when we were offensive of Sterling, Tav and Fernandez. Right-sided wing-back was Aarons, left-sided wing-back was Magoma, Raskin and Barn in the middle of the pitch, and Moore, Diomande and Majowski were your 3 up top. Dougie, I wanted to refer to a comment that's dropped in earlier on from, and I don't know what's happening with that username, 5-KT3TL. We need leadership on the field in every area of the pitch. When you look at that starting 11, it's not brimming with guys that you think, do you know what? he's going to lead us through this match at Tynecastle. He's going to steer us through what is going to be a difficult match. There's not many names there that make you think, you know what, we'll be okay with that guy.
See, the thing is, Scott, there's no surprises here, right? Because we've said consistently throughout this show, when you look at next season, there is zero core to our squad of guys that you build upon. And that's what you need in games like today, is a core group of guys that are going to carry you through the game. And the other guys around them need to chip in every now and again, but you need guys who every single week you can rely on. And we lack that. We lack a spine, we lack experience, we lack leadership. It just screams out. And we keep talking about we're about heading into January, and Danny Rose saying all the right things about how he's analysed the squad and hoping we move quickly in the market. I'm sorry, we will not be able to sign as many players as what we need come January. What we need to do in January is be able to make us competitive, because when I watched that game today, I felt that game was very much a first v fourth in the league game of football, and we were firmly the fourth best team in the league today. And we need to just make a few additions in January who are still here come the summer, i.e. loan players aren't good enough right now because the league's gone, right? There's no point in bringing in guys on loan who come in, offering something for 6 months and then go back to their parent club. What we need to start doing now is thinking about next season, start to play guys that are going to be here next season and beyond, and start to build that core, start to give them experience. I listened to Steve Clarke when Scotland qualified for the World Cup, and what Steve Clarke said was really interesting. Steve Clarke said, this is me getting the rewards now for having a strategy and a philosophy in it and sticking with it. And what he meant by that was, when he first took over, he picked a certain core group of players that he was going to pick and select over and over again, despite some noises from outside saying they're not good enough, we should be expanding the squad outside of the same old core. But actually what you get when you pick the same core over and over again is they start to build experience, they start to build a closeness amongst each other. And I think that's what happened with Scotland when we qualified, is we wanted it more than Denmark, and there was a real team spirit. We're lacking that just now, and it's hard to talk about picking a core group of guys for the manager to back right now, because I'm looking at that team and I'm not seeing anyone that I'm thinking he's someone that we should be building around. We just look inept, and it's it's scandalous, because see, if you look squad by squad, Rangers versus Hearts, we have the better squad than Hearts. It's just, there's something fundamentally wrong with us at the moment. I know it's a really bold statement considering we're fourth and they're first, but we have more internationalists than them.
So
I know, but that doesn't mean much to be honest. We've seen that today, mate. Sorry, Scotty.
Right. So what I was going to say is, right, so I do understand where you're coming from, Dukes, right? James Butler 72 has who's watching on the YouTube tonight. We lack quality, and one of the things I think is glaringly obvious about this Rangers team just now is that in the areas where people can make differences, Hearts in particular 100% have better players. I don't care about anyone.
No, right? Because here's a question, Scott. Right, so you go through the Hearts team, right? Would you have Stuart Finley at the centre back? Would you have Nicky Devlin in the middle of the park? Or, that's not Nicky Devlin, is it? Would you have Devlin in the middle of the park? Would you have Cammy? Yeah. Would you have Lawrence Shankland as your number 9? We've had the opportunity to sign these guys. Shankland was out of contract last summer. We passed on him. Finley and Devlin are out of contract this summer. We probably won't be looking at them because they're not good enough for Rangers. The difference is it takes a different quality and mentality of player to play for Rangers than it does for Hearts. But like for like, our squad is better than the Hearts squad. I don't want to make this a Danny Rule bashing, right? Because Danny Rule's done really well to get a tune out of what is a bad squad, right? For Rangers standards, this is a bad squad. The league position does not lie, right? We have scraped results, and you can talk about how that's a good sign, right? That we're grinding out results. It's a good quality when you grind out results, right? But it wasn't sustainable. And unfortunately for me, I'm looking at today, And I know that it's not a great group of players, but I just think we should be getting more out of this player, these group of players. See, when you look at guys like Raskin and the effort levels from Nico Raskin 10 times the player that Cammy Devlin is, 10 times better than Cammy Devlin. But Cammy Devlin looked like the Belgian internationalist today, not Nico Raskin.
Dougie, how many managers have they let down?
Oh, I know. I'm not arguing. I literally said that earlier on. This is a mentality issue. The mentality of this core group right now is not good enough, and that's the reason why we keep getting beat. Do you know the one player that I actually thought looked like somebody who was pissed? The only one player in our entire squad who I thought looked pissed off that we were getting beat was Fernandes. Only one player. Nobody looked raging that we were getting beat.
So
is that not an issue?
Dougie, there's loads to unpack there, and so I'll be brutally honest with you. Rob's desperate to get into your ribs, I can tell. One of the things I personally think, and based on what we've seen since the beginning of the season, so back to August under Russell Martin and Kevin Thelwell and all the players that have come in, I think you need to be really brave to come on here tonight and say that Hearts have got a better squad than we have. Because I personally think the Hearts squad is way better than we've got just now. And I think it's been a very, very... The last time that I think we would maybe have thought and or said that would probably be when George Burley was in charge. And you had guys like Skatchel and the boy Bednar that played up front. The two Lithuanian boys, the boy that eventually came to us, whose name escaped, Velichka, and Zaliushka. And I have to be honest, I just think Hearts have got a far better squad than we've got just now. And as I said, Sheryl, I don't know if you agree with this, I think the key thing they have is they've got difference makers in key positions, whether it's the Braga boy, whether it's the boy that plays either side, who's Greek, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, or whether it's Shankland. I saw Johnny McFarlane of Rangers Review fame posted something, and it was something on the lines of Shankland scored 12 goals this season for Hearts, and our top three, who have cost an absolute fortune, are only on 10, the three of them. And while I appreciate they can only score goals if they're given better service, it speaks to the point that Lawrence Shankland is getting good service to score his 12 goals, and he's more clinical than any of the three that we've got. And I think that's just where we find ourselves just now, Sheryl. Is that fair? Do you agree with that?
I think so. He's far more clinical. Would I take him as our number 9 at the moment? Absolutely, because he's far more clinical than anything that we've got going on at the moment. And I think for me as well, Hearts just got it today. They wanted it more. And that's criminal. That's something that worried me beforehand, as I said at the beginning of the pod, that I didn't think the players got how big this was.
Yeah.
I didn't think they understood what a massive chance it was. Things have gone in our favour massively recently, and it's just a huge chance missed. You look at our midfield today. That was something that a point I made early on in our group chat. There was nothing. The first 20 minutes, we actually looked all right. We looked relatively well organised at the back. Sterling came in early doors, made a few good clearances, a couple of good challenges, but there was just absolutely nothing going on in midfield. In terms of Diomande and Raskin, I wouldn't shed tears over either of them going away. They look like, for me, I don't know if you guys agree, but they look like they've completely checked out.
Yeah. Rob, and this was a discussion point in the four lads WhatsApp chat pre-match when the lineups came out, and the guys have perhaps covered this. I know Amrit and Kenny and Stephen were on post-match, and they've maybe already covered the fact that there wasn't anyone obvious who was going to carry the ball to your Majovskis, your Moores and your Diomandes. I think in the case of the latter, Diomandes having a real problem as far as form is concerned just now, and it's a real worry. And will probably be something that I suspect will be addressed in January. He's not alone, but for someone that plays in the area of the pitch that he plays in, we can't afford half-arsed performances, and I think that's what you're seeing now consistently. Half-assed performances, and it ain't good enough. Great Wall of Canada jumps into the YouTube chat. We need a creative midfielder. My goodness, it's lacking hugely, Rob, isn't it?
Isn't it half, mate? And I think it's the biggest challenge that we've got is that we can talk about not having people that are going to run with the ball. You've got to actually win the opportunity to do that, and that the fundamental problem that we had in our team today was there was nobody that was up for the fight in that team. And if you, what I'll compare and contrast is if you look at that Hearts team, every time they lost that ball and it broke to a Rangers player, there was 2, 3, 4 players applying pressure to win it back. Anytime we were on the edge of the box, they had 2 or 3 guys pressing under pressure, no giving us any time at all. And I don't care if I've got a team full of international players. That doesn't matter to me. I want a team of players that are going to act like that are going to put everything on the line for the jersey. And that's what the Hearts player did today. So technically, Dougie might be right that we've got a better squad on paper. We haven't, but he might be right technically. The fact of the matter is, they wanted it more. And if you want to look at it, the 2 top goal scorers in this league are Hearts players. Who's our top goal scorer in the league so far this season? Our fucking right back.
Right.
You know, they've got players that are regularly contributing with assists from the rest of the team. Who have we got? Fucking Tav again. We've got nothing in the team to give us anything going forward. And we might have a Belgian international in the middle of the pitch, but he'd be as well not been there because his head's not in the game. He's been terrible the whole season. And if you want to talk about quality, he's the one that should be. He wants to be a leader within this team. He should be dragging people up by the scruff of their neck and get in. But he couldn't even do it today. So he can't have a go at anybody. So I get really frustrated when we talk about quality. I don't give a fuck about quality. I want players to work hard because that's the thing that you can then give to players that have got quality. If we've got a team of 4, 5, 6 people in that team that are workhorses, they're going to afford the people that might be the difference makers the opportunity to go forward and be a bit more creative. You look at Mikey Moore, he puts in a really good shift being one of our creative players, but he then wastes that much energy harassing back, chasing back, because we've got work-shy people in the midfield that don't do it. So the only option that he's got is to come and do it. It really boils my fucking head when we don't have that work rate in the middle of the pitch. And we can talk about that all day. It's not going to change overnight. And unfortunately, today's been a big showing up for them.
Do you know, one of the comments I've got here for the Welling United fan, and this is important because I think for every big game that Rangers lose and under Danny Röhl's leadership, you inevitably get really close to the end of the rope and you begin to ask the question of the manager. It's just the way it is. That's life. We've done it with all the previous guys that have been before: Martin, Clement, Gio, Michael Beale. The only one that probably got away with it was Gerrard because he left, he was on account. But you get to the end of the rope with all these guys. The Welling United fan who's a regular, we grateful for him looking in. He needs more time and investment. Rob, I mean, time, I think, is a given. Investment can't be, and I'm sure won't be, unlimited. But everyone needs replaced as far as I'm concerned. There's a real argument just now that Rangers need 11 first teamers to make it respectful and try and get us into respectable and get us into an area where we can realistically think we're challenging.
Absolutely. And I think I'll tell you the one thing that gives me hope that Danny Röhl is the right man. 8 points and 7 under Russell Martin, 20 and 9 under Danny Röhl with the same squad of players now. We can argue the toss over the performances and all that sort of stuff, but the fact that he's been able to eke out the results that he has done so far demonstrates that he does have something about him. He's young, he will make mistakes, he's got to learn from them very, very quickly. But the thing that we lack, and I think what we need to see coming in January, is experience. Because ultimately, from that experience, you'd like to think it would rub off on the younger players that are within the squad and they can influence them and hopefully then start to impart, look, this is what a good professional does. This is how you carry yourself. This is what's expected when you step over, and they can be the standard that the other players can follow. Because at the moment, we've got nobody really showing anybody in the team what they should be doing when they go on the pitch. Nobody that is willing to grab a game by the scruff of the neck, and we're not going to have a bottomless pit of money, unfortunately. Now, you've got sellable assets there, regardless of how we think they're playing at this moment in time. Raskin, would any of us, or any 4 of us here, be upset if we were to sell him come January to generate some funds? Diomande has had enough time and enough managers to show what he can offer. And unfortunately, today was another day where he kind of just didn't turn up. So it is going to be about using the money wisely and getting quality in. So if we only sign 3, maybe 4 players, I would be happy with that, as long as they were good pros of a quality that can bring the rest of the team standard up a little bit.
Sheryl, David Glendinning is looking on YouTube. You need 4 or 5 good grafters in your team and let quality players do their thing, which I think is quite fair. The concern I have is the shit show almost that January is, as far as getting quality in, and the quickness of doing your business in January is key. What you don't want, I don't think, and I feel like we've done this for a long time now on transfer deadline day with Jim White, yellow tie nonsense. You're linked with guys that are just looking for moves away to their championship club because they want 6 months of football and maybe put themselves in the shop window for the summer. I think it's critically important that in January, whatever business that Danny Rule is lucky enough to do, we're bringing in players that become Rangers footballers, as opposed to being guys that we're going to give football to for a period of time. The importance of getting these guys in to play in the right positions and to come in as Rangers footballers, give them smart contracts. Potentially, if we're bringing in youth that we can sell on to make money in the future, great. But the importance of getting the right people for the right fee and they're coming in to be Rangers players for the future. January's a really important window for Danny Rule.
It is, and do you know what? Obviously, but we've touched on the fact that it can be quite a dodgy window. The only thing that I think might be different this year is people have got a World Cup to play for.
Yeah.
So you maybe have players that are coming in that are determined to do a job for you over those 6 months to make sure that they get that World Cup place nailed down. But you've just described, Scott, when you made the reference to players that come in just to get a wee bit of football. You've described a lot of the signings that we brought in over the summer. That's exactly what you described. And my only worry with that as well is that the crap that we're dealing with at the moment drag decent players down, because look at your kind of more established, almost leadership group players in the middle, Raskin and Diomande. Nobody's getting pulled up by them. Nobody's getting grabbed and shaken up. And previously, Raskin would have done that job pretty well. We've seen this time last year, that was his role. He did it pretty well. But these players aren't inspiring anybody.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's really quite fair as well. I mean, if you're a new guy that's turning up to Rangers in January and you're looking for someone to come meet you at the front door and explain what it's all about, running that old John Travolta is Gift's going to be the one that's going to, because there's no one there. You can't imagine any of these players going up and putting an arm around a new player to say, this is where we go. This is where we go after we win things. This is how we celebrate winning things, because there's no one. Those are wee things. Those are really, really small things, Dougie, but they're really important to anyone that comes in to become involved, to understand what we as supporters expect, what it's all about. Tynecastle today, as far as I'm concerned, should have been an absolute non-negotiable. Go 120%. Every one of you, don't come off with your shorts clean. Don't come off knackered. Make sure you've went and left everything out there. And I don't know if many of them can look around and say, I've done that today.
So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here on the manager, right? Because obviously he's not exonerated of blame for me right now. So see, to your point there around they should have the expectation. So there's a couple of different points for me, right? So one, genuine question, right? And I'm going to get heat from this because people don't like sometimes what I say, right? Would Nico Raskin coast it in if Steven Gerrard was the manager today?
So what makes, are you saying that because of the Steven Gerrard effect, him being a central midfielder, blah, 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 someone understands his position?
See, if you're lacking leadership on the pitch, sometimes you need to get it off the pitch. And I'm not writing off Danny Rule, right? But there's a couple of things about Danny Rule for me, right? Is those players like Nico Raskin, like Diomande, are not running through brick walls for the manager right now.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
And two, Clement, Beale, and Gio all had more points, like the same amount of games as what Danny Rule had, right? Now, you can get the argument around the standard of the squads being different, right?
Yeah.
But Danny Rule deserves praise for turning it around from Russell Martin. It's now up to him to take it to the next stage, because we are not a fourth place team, right? This is not Sheffield Wednesday. We do not, scrape by games. See, when you look at the team today, and I get that he's working with what he's got, right? One of the big issues for me is just balance, right? When you're talking about in certain parts of the game where there was always Hearts players there, we are not going to get that when you're playing five at the back. So see the midfield battle, we're always going to lose the midfield battle. See the creativity in the final third, you're not going to get a lot of creativity in the final third because you only had Mikey Moore being that creative spark. So one of the key differences between us and Hearts, taking the squads away from it, for example, is balance. Our balance right now is not right. And whilst there was a chat earlier on around we need to go and add creativity, one of the reasons why we can't play more players in the final third is because our defence is that poor. Come January, we need to go and improve the back line. We need to sign a proper centre back who has experience, who has leadership, and at some point we need to upgrade on Magloma at left back as well. See, when you can sign defenders who can defend and stop the ball from going in the net, and hopefully give Butland a bit more confidence that he can actually, save some shots. Once you do that, you can then go a wee bit more attacking, and you can have more guys in the final third. And granted, with Antman injured, for example, and Gassama kind of forgetting how to play football, we might need to add another creative player as well. But for me, the priority in January, to give the guys in the final third some confidence that they can go and express themselves and not have to worry about conceding goals at the back, we need to sign defenders.
Yeah. You mentioned Raskin, Dougie Skunk Burner 1, which is a fantastic name. Raskin is a player but needs quality beside him. Barnes is a good wee player, but he is not the quality we need. I think that's quite fair. I think there's quality missing throughout. I'm going to speak about Jack Butland in a minute, but before we do that, I do want to say hi to our sponsor for the podcast show, for this show rather, for this season. It's your local darts shop. You can find them on allthews.localdartshop.co.uk. They do all things darts and accessories. If you're looking for someone to kit out your local pub, your house, your club, your function hall, they will keep you on target. Get in touch, allthews.localdartshop.co.uk. Dougie, I'm going to stay with you. I think everyone knows that Butland was at fault for goal number 2. I've seen murmurings that they felt his positioning for the first goal was none too clever as well. Where are you in that?
The first one came from his kick out, right? So you can point the finger right back to the kick out. Again, Raskin coasted it in, trying to clear the ball when he goes out for the corner. Having one guy for the corner coming out, the short corner coming out, is scandalous because it created an easy bit of space for an easy cross into the box. Yep. We had the numbers in the box as well and still get outbeat, out jumped in the box. Where do you point the finger at? Because there's just a catalogue of errors in that goal. And it probably sums up our season, to be perfectly honest. It was just catastrophic. You can point the finger at anyone in that, but I think it's just testament to the game itself, is that just really low quality.
Rob, obviously goalkeepers are one of the specialist positions, so you make an arse of it, you're always going to have a problem. I personally didn't listen. The kick out for goal for the first goal is a shocker, but Rangers then got the opportunity to defend that. So do you know what I mean? You can't get too lost in the fact that the distribution was crap or we never controlled the distribution properly. But we've got a real opportunity to defend it properly at that point. After that dodgy pass is gone, we don't do that correctly. So I don't think he can have too much stick levelled at him for the set piece as such. I mean, we get done with a stupid wee back heel from a corner. I mean, switch on, Rangers, for Christ's sake. But the second goal is a shocker for any goalkeeper to lose. My wee fella's 8. And the wee guy that trains at his football team, one of the things that we were told, do you know what I mean? Near post, near post, near post. Do not ever get caught out of your near post. He's 8. And I find it quite hard for a Rangers goalkeeper of Jack Butland sort of proportion, personality, leadership quality, you could maybe argue, to lose a goal like that today. Really disappointing.
Disappointing's an understatement, I think, Scotty, to be honest, mate. It was, I still struggle to understand how he kind of made a mess of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I know Shanklin's hit it with a bit of force, but ultimately it's kind of straight through him, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no defending him. And it also, just you talking about 8-year-olds and football there, it reminded me of that meme where the dad's at the side and he pushes the wee boy into the way. If somebody could have done that to Butland, that would have been very helpful today. The first goal, I think you've got to absolve him of blame. Yes, it was a shit kick out, but positioning at the corner was terrible. Leaving the goal with that 2-on-1, Barron marking Finley is just mental as well. You know, why isn't Sterling anybody doing that? But you know, Butland this season has probably saved us more than he's cost us, is the only comment I'll make. Unfortunately, his mistake had to come in a game like this today. And again, you know, goals change games. You know, after the Miovski goal gets chopped off, Raskin has a marvellous chance that I feel he's got to be doing a hell of a lot better with. You know, he heads that down and that's 1-0. And it's those little sliding doors moments in these games that we just don't seem to be getting the rub of the green, unfortunately. But Butland's always got a bit of a mistake in him, sadly. This season we thought it was done. We knew he was going to be dodgy with the ball at his feet, but ultimately that's up to the team and the manager to adjust and play to his strengths. Playing it out for the back with his feet isn't one of them. And it comes back to that work rate. You know, you don't just work when you've got the ball. You need to be moving and looking for a pass when we have the ball. And there's not enough of that in the team. You know, we've seen it too many times where players are just happy to stand next to their opposition number. Nobody makes a wee dart into a bit of space to try and receive the ball. So it made it dead easy for Hearts just to push up and sit in us. And it resulted in Butland having to try and go long quite often, which just turns the ball over and gives it back to Hearts and lets them build again, unfortunately.
See the second goal, Welsh Butland is entirely at fault because he should be saving that shot, which is right at him, ultimately. The defence need to take a long, hard look at themselves as well, because the space that Shanklin found himself in to get that shot away is criminal. And it doesn't just stop at the defence. I'd urge anyone to watch Diomande in that goal, who literally watches Shanklin run off him, and he just jogs effortlessly back as if he's doing something. And for me, that summed up us. You know, after the first goal went in, the bottle cashed. There's a mentality issue there that when the first goal went in, it was almost inevitable we're going to concede another cheap one straight after it as well, because we lost all organisation, but the effort just wasn't there. And it all comes back to leadership again. There's no leaders on that park making sure that we reorganise after the first goal goes in and, you know, compose ourselves to go back at it again, because we started okay. We did actually start okay. We had our chances. But see, when you compare us to Hearts across the full 90, there's not a chance in this earth that Hearts would allow one of our players to run through and have a clear shot goal like that.
No, I do you know, I was really disappointed in Diomande's performance today. I thought it was really, really poor. But, and I kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast, what we have just now is he consistently just doesn't seem to be at it. For whatever reason, I don't think anyone knows. I always remember, and I think Stevie actually wrote it for the Rangers Review, and it was something along the lines of, and I'm not quoting him verbatim, that these players will get a manager the sack again. The same players will get the manager the sack. Now, I think in the case of Russell Martin, the circumstances were ever so slightly different because he didn't hit the ground running at all. I don't think there was really anyone that was in that camp for when he arrived as him being the guy that we wanted, Sheryl. But there's a real concern that the guys that have been there before, under Clement, under Russell Martin, and we're seeing the same pattern of effort and energy under Danny Rule as what we've seen under these guys.
Absolutely, and that's what I said earlier. You know, you're looking at these guys. If you come in as somebody new at the club, you're looking at these guys to give you a wee bit of G'ing up, to show you the ropes, to inspire you. There's nothing. Diomande just makes. We've touched on it before. The most ridiculous challenges, and he did another one today that he was very lucky didn't connect. He's just always making these. It's almost as if he thinks, right, sack this, I'm off ski. And makes a daft challenge to get himself off the pitch, but he does it time and time again. And it might not come across very well, but I was actually a wee bit disappointed that he didn't go to AFCON, because I thought it would maybe give Lyle Cameron a wee shout to come in. I know he's injured at the moment, but he gives us absolutely nothing. And previously, when you talked about him, you would say, you know, maybe in your smaller games, your Kilmarnock at home or your Falkirk or whatever, he didn't really appear, but he was decent in Europe. He was decent in Old Firm games, and a game like today, you could have put your hat on Diomande that he would put in a half decent performance and a wee bit of effort and energy. And I can't remember the last game that he had that I actually thought he did that. He was decent.
I'm going to be unpopular again, Scott, right? There's two things I'm going to say which is going to make me really unpopular. I'm going to say it, right? One, even in the last pod we were on, I said Lyle Cameron needs to be given a chance, right?
Yep.
As Sheryl said, he's injured again. Lyle Cameron seems to be one of these guys right now who is not available. And that's an issue for me. He is a talented player. I really liked him at Dundee. When we signed him, I thought, and I said, he's going to surprise a lot of people because he's a lot better than Dundee. But unfortunately, he's one of those players that we're not seeing it because he's not available, right? And the reason why he's likely on the bench is because he's not fit enough to start, right? So Lyle Cameron is an issue for me in terms of he needs to get fit and he needs to stay fit if he's going to get into this team. On Diomande, I said this in one of the previous pods, Diomande's the kind of guy that would look better in a better team. And what I mean by that, right, is I get that Diomande's not a roll your sleeves up and battle kind of player, right? It's the reason why Devlin looked good today, and it's the reason why Barron has been good all season for us, right? Is because when you're playing poorly, you need guys that are going to battle for everything, right? That's not Diomande's game. If we had a successful team that had more players up front, right? So your forward three players. Diomande is that spider in a web player that I've described in the past. He's the kind of guy that should just be picking up the ball and playing it forward. The biggest issue that we have right now with guys like Diomande, and I'm going to say Miovski as well, right, is you need to be playing to a certain system to get the best out of these guys. See Miovski in the first 45, he was lost. I know he put the ball in the net, and we've not even spoken about the fact that he was onside, right? Tight decision, but he looked on. Miovski is a very different kind of striker to someone like Shermite, right? Shermite is a guy who will put himself about, he'll cover a lot of ground. He's actually quite good at holding the ball up and linking the ball up play, Shermite, right? That's his game. Miovski is a penalty box striker. To get the best out of Miovski, you need to be dominating the game and you need to be putting the ball in the box. So arguably, when you're playing five at the back in an away from home game, maybe Miovski's not the right pick in hindsight. But likewise, in a game like that, where you don't have guys up front, where you are needing to battle, Diamande's not the right player for that game.
So
But neither's Asgard. We've not got many options in the bench. We could have brought Kieran Dillon, I suppose.
Please don't ever mention Kieran Dillon. But you're right, we've got two, and that's an issue with the signings in the summer, right? We've got too many guys who are weak as piss, that don't, and are incapable of battling. You know, you imagine a team with Diomande, Dowell, Asgard, Miovski, Max Aarons, you know, they're just too soft. We need to go out and sign. You know, I mentioned Fernandez earlier on. Fernandez is not a brilliant defender, right? But Fernandez could be okay for us because he's big, he's strong, and he looks like he actually wants to be here. He looks like he wants to try. If you add somebody experienced beside Fernandez, you know, you look at Davy Weir when Davy Weir had guys like De Guerra, Queller, Danny Wilson. These guys all look good beside Davy Weir because you had that guy that was talking you through the game. We need to add more experience throughout this team to get the best out of the other guys around about them. But you can't be relying on guys like Diomande and Asgard and Miovski in these kind of games. We need to, and it's difficult, right, in January because it's an awful window. But we need to be signing guys that suit Scottish football, who suit the rough and tumble, the battles. we're going to have to sign some experienced players, some bigger players, some more physical players, and then bring in, see, Asgard. What I would say on Asgard, and obviously I'm going to just be hugely unpopular tonight, I think Asgard's another player to be perfectly fine if you had guys of real experience, leadership, physicality in the middle of the park that allowed him to go away and express himself. My prediction on Asgard is if you can add that in January or the summer, and he's still here next season, he might be the kind of player that kicks on. He might need a year to settle at a big club. Bearing in mind he came from Diddy clubs down south. Might take time to settle, but he needs guys around about him who are going to do the working, the battling, and allow him to do the creativity. He looked okay when he came on.
I remember saying at the time, when we brought in much of the guys in the summer, when Russell Martin brought in much of the guys in the summer, Sheryl, I kind of believe that we should be bringing in guys that understand the demands of playing for a football club that need to win, that have a history of winning stuff, that have a cabinet back in their house they can pull at a drawer and go, see that medal? I won that when I was playing in Norway, or I won that when I was playing in Sweden, or I won that when I was playing the Championship. We've not done that at all. So we've brought up guys here in the summer that have played fairly mediocre as far as the quality of the football team. Asgard's a prime example of that. So it becomes really clear as month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is where we are now. As the season develops, it becomes really clear that these guys just don't get the requirements of playing at our club. We've went for a long time playing in a 2-bit sort of league, and now looks like that's going to change this season. I think Hearts will win this league at a canter. I genuinely do. I think they're going to improve very, very well in January. I don't think anyone will get near them. But it's quite obvious that the guys that we've brought up in the summer, for whatever reason, are, and I think I said it in our WhatsApp chat earlier on today, none of these guys will be successful Rangers players. Not one of them. Goalkeeper, right back, captain, striker, they ain't going to be successful at Rangers.
No. I think was it last week we spoke about players that they could have brought in the summertime, and I think we mentioned Shankland and I think we mentioned Kenny McLean. There's two guys that actually would have made a big difference and absolutely would have known and would have understood what it is like to play for Rangers. But here's the thing, and it might just be all sound bites, but you have these clips when they sign Asgard or when they sign Ant-Man, and it's, I'm delighted to be here and I know what it means and I know the pressure. So somebody somewhere is talking to these guys. They must have an idea of the expectation slightly, but I think, as we've touched on several times tonight, there is nobody who is constantly giving them it in the ear, constantly pulling them in at half-time and saying that's a load of shite, you can't play like that second half, or getting them at the end of the game, or really riling them up before the game and getting everybody G'd up. That's what we're missing. Because I do think from what we hear, and I know it's the side bites, and I know the media team have to put these out, but these guys say that they know what it means. They'll say, well, look at Asgard. My granddad was a big Rangers fan. You know what I mean? But, and I know, listen, I know there's an element of PR to that, but coming into Rangers, you do know everybody knows what Rangers are about. Everybody knows the success that we've had. So I don't believe that when these players come in, they've got no idea of the expectation. I just think there is nobody there on a daily or weekly or monthly basis that is keeping giving that to them all the time. And that's what we're missing. As we've said several times, that's where we're going wrong.
So I completely agree with that, and I'm going to come to that just as a last question for the evening. Sheryl, would you like to see Finley Curtis given a shot through the middle of the park?
I've said that before. I think he's one of the best finishers at the club. Absolutely. Now, look, he has looked, and I know a lot of people came out and said he didn't look great against Hibs. He looks like a young guy that's not been played much and has been out injured as well. We can't rely on him, right? We've seen what that does with McComa. You can't rely on these young guys. I feel the same about Connor Barron. I like Connor Barron, but we cannot be relying on him all the time. But I would give Finley Curtis a go through the middle, 100%. Give him a chance.
To be honest, Scotty, though, I was just going to say, sorry, it doesn't matter who we've got playing through the middle. If we're not creating any chances, nobody's going to finish them. That's part of the problem we've got in this team at the moment. There's nothing else there supporting them to be able to to be able to create the chances to give us the opportunity to have somebody like a wee Finley Curtis finishing them.
So do you know what? I would come back to you on that though. I think we're now at the stage where we have if I can say, a trust issue, and by that I mean if there is a chance, and you've got Majowski who's going to try and score, Chermiti who's going to try and score, or Danilo that's going to try and score, I'm not sure you trust the guys that we've heavily invested in to actually score. And I don't think it really makes a huge deal of difference if you're adding Finley Curtis into that chance, considering the record he's got, the knowledge of the football club he's got. Clearly, Rangers fans scored loads of goals at B team level, which we know is completely different to sort of man's football, which I get. I just don't think he's any worse an option, Rob, than the three guys that we've horsed out £16 million on.
Absolutely not, mate. The one thing that you're going to get for him is a level of effort that we don't see in the team, and I guess that's the argument for having somebody like Lyle Cameron back in the team as well. You know, I think he's almost become a little bit better by his absence than we anticipate. But it's because you're looking at the example that Barron's setting with the work rate. Yes, he doesn't maybe have the same type of quality as Raskin, but he's doing a hell of a lot more than him, because I was really perplexed today when it was him that came off, because he was the only one in that midfield that was working today. You know, he was the one that was grafting, and I kind of felt like Raskin and Diamandi were coasting when Dion was on the pitch. So the fact that he came off instead of Raskin really baffled me. But it comes back to the grafting bit, Scotty. You know, I think that's ultimately, you give me a team full of people that are going to go onto that pitch and give their effort 100%. I'll take that over the fucking current group that we've got at the moment, regardless of what international team they play for, how much quality they've got, because ultimately that doesn't matter a jot if you're not going to put the hard work in. And we can say that these players, yes, they can be if they're freed up and other people can do the work for them. I'm sorry, that's a cop-out. Brian Laudrup was a great player. He fucking worked hard for the team when he needed to. You know, we can't excuse these guys just because they're talented and creative players. You've still got to put the effort in, especially when it comes to the Scottish League, because it is different. Everybody's got to work hard in the team. Otherwise, you've got a gap and it's going to be exposed by some of these teams.
Yeah, agree.
Right, I disagree. I disagree for two things, right? So one, Brian Laudrup didn't always work hard, right? Brian Laudrup was an amazing footballer, my favourite all-time footballer, not just at Rangers, in the world, right? He's my favourite footballer. But Brian Laudrup was blessed in playing in a solid team that worked their arse off for each other, that had a core of leaders, right? We don't have that. So, like, you can't say Brian Laudrup would not work as well in this team right now. He'd be another guy that would be like dribbling the ball, looking up and going, who the fuck am I passing the ball to, right? But see the argument about Finley Curtis. Finley Curtis, when you're playing 5-3-1, 5-3-1-1 at Tynecastle, right? Finley Curtis' name comes in the hat for two positions. The position that Mikey Moore was playing, Mikey Moore is doing more to deserve his place right now than Finley Curtis. They're up against each other right now, and Mikey Moore gets the nod. To suggest that Finley Curtis could lead the line away from home against Tynecastle is just wrong. He does not have the skill set and the profile to lead the line away from home at Tynecastle. You need somebody who can hold the ball up, who can bring other players into the game and play it on. And that's what Chermiti actually did when he came on. It actually, you know, Chermiti is not perfect, right? But he is that player that can suit certain games. We probably, in hindsight, should have started him. But if you are looking for somebody who's going to be poaching around the penalty box to work off scraps and put the ball in the net, Miovski's your man. So, like, in a game like today, play Chermiti. See, in games where you're going to be creating chances, play Miovski. That's what, and like, for me, it's as simple as that. Finley Curtis is a young player who's got a lot of learning to do. He's got potential, but he should not, like, I don't think he's as good as what everyone makes him out to be. He's not in the same level as Mikey Moore, and he's certainly not the profile to lead our line.
And so I'll be honest with you. You may be right. You've obviously watched Finley Curtis more than I have, because I don't know how you can say that he isn't good enough when we've not really seen nearly enough of him. Because you could say
I didn't say he's not good enough, right? Because Finley Curtis is a great young player, right? He's still learning his trade. What I mean by he's not good enough is Mikey Moore. So as a number 10, Mikey Moore has earned the jersey right now. You've seen the difference that he gave to the team when he was out injured, and when he's came back again, he's hit the ground running again, right? Finley Curtis is second choice to Mikey Moore right now. as a number 9, he doesn't have the profile to lead the line against Hearts at Tynecastle.
But based on what?
His physicality. He's got no physicality.
But if someone knocks the ball over the back of the defence, he's getting it ahead of Chermiti, Majowski, or Danilo.
I don't agree.
We'll
And
take
listen, like I'm happy because I'm getting slaughtered. I get called Craig Revel Hollywood earlier on because someone forgot his name. Actually, Craig Revel Hollow, because I am Mr. Grim Reaper. Apparently, I've turned into the new Chris Jack. But
I know Chris Jack's better than you, mate.
we should not sit here and think that Finley Curtis is the answer to our problems. He's not good enough.
No, we don't.
Mate, I don't think anybody's saying that he's the answer to the problems, but he's a player that deserves a chance. Up until recently, goals per minute, he's got one of the best performances in the squad, and that's on his that's on his limited minutes that he's had. All we're saying is that there are options that I would prefer him in the team than Diamandi. Put it that way. You're going to get a bit of graft off him.
They're different players in different positions.
I don't care what anyone says. The main problem you have, and this all goes back to the work that's been done in the summer by Mr. Thelwell, who is now cash elsewhere. We've spent a fortune on a player who, incidentally, Chermiti scored today. Congratulations on getting your second goal. At least you're beginning to pay that full stack of cash back. So well done to him. But the problem you've got is that the 3 strikers that we've got just now all cost north of 15 million, and not one of them look like they're capable of scoring anything like an amount of goals that could contribute to Rangers winning a league. Not one of them. And that's the reason that Finley Curtis comes into the discussion as to being one of those top sort of striker positions, if you like. Nobody knows for a minute if he's going to be good or bad, and if he's got the physicality to do it or not, Dougs, in my opinion. But I think based on what we've seen for the other 3, he's surely due a fair crack at it now. And I you know what I mean? We've not long seen like boys like Kyle Glasgow. There's a lot of young guys at Rangers who are guaranteed going to go the same way as all the other young promising talent we get at our club. Because they're not given opportunity and because they're not given chances, they disappear. And some of them do effectively disappear, by the way. But some of them can be really decent players, and they'll never get chances at our club. Never, it'll never happen. And it's something that's cultural, and it's something that I think, and I hope, Danny Rule has the balls to try and change. Whether he will or not is an entirely different question. Let's look at the time. We're probably around for another 5 to 10 minutes tops. I've got wrapping to do. Rob, I'll come to you next because we know that this has been a really shitty day, and I think everyone's mood is fairly scunnered with it. Who's tearing the strips off the walls in the Tynecastle dressing room at full time? Because I don't see anyone, and I know this goes back to leadership chat that we've had earlier on, but who's went in there and said, you were shite, I was shite, you were murder, you shouldn't have been anywhere near the team for Motherwell? Who's doing that?
Nobody. Simple answer. There's nobody. You'd love to think there would be, but based on everything we've seen at the start of the season, what we see on the pitch, nothing. Nobody. There isn't a leader that is like that at Rangers, and that is the problem. Yep. You know, you need somebody after a result like that to go on and grab somebody and throw them up against the dressing room wall and have a bit of a in-your-face moment, and that wasn't good enough. And equally, be honest enough to call themselves out as well, to say, I was absolutely shite, that isn't good enough. Next game, everybody needs to step up. But there's not going to be anybody in there, unfortunately, that would do it. You know, they're all very quiet. And I guess this comes back to the profile of player that you need. You need to have that experience and leadership to be in that position. And we've no signed anybody like that, unfortunately. You know, even if Suter was playing today, he wouldn't be doing it. You know, you hear him in interviews, he's the softest spoken defender I think I've ever heard in my life. There's no way that he'd be shouting at anybody in the pitch.
What about Sterling, Rob? Sterling?
Nah, I doubt it.
I mean,
his press, the way he speaks in the press sometimes, though, it doesn't sugarcoat things. And previously he came out and kind of put his hands up and said, no, this is not good enough, and spoke more honestly than I think Clement was speaking at the time.
Yeah,
that's what I can think of.
I mean, I think Dougie said earlier on that like Fernandes looked thoroughly pissed off today, and I think the wonderfully named Robert Burns agrees with you. He looked a bit mouthy today, which I think is absolutely fair. He gave Majowski an absolute shafting when he got in his road at header at 2-0, as he should have done. And my main concern, Sheryl, is that at full time, as we thank the fans for the trip along the M8. Thanks for coming to watch us. Hope you had a good pie and you enjoyed the sing-song. We're away in and we'll just get our stuff back on. Nice tracksuit and off back up road. When realistically it should be a Rami in there at full time because it's not acceptable.
Absolutely, and it's the same thing we keep coming back to the whole pod, isn't it? That there's just nobody there that was doing it. Obviously, nobody. I don't think any of us wanted Barry Ferguson to get the job permanently, but that was one of the things that you got from him immediately when he was doing that interim role. You had somebody there that knew what it was all about. You had guys around them that would go in and that would ruffle feathers in the dressing room if there was performances that weren't very good, and then were quite honest when they spoke to us about it as well. The only thing that gives me a wee bit of hope around Danny Rowell, I know he's very softly spoken, but he's obviously given Thelwell a wee bit of a chasing, because I do think he was probably instrumental in that decision to get rid of him as well. I believe he looked at some of his transfer targets and was like, absolutely no way. I think he's pretty clued up around guys like Asgard, etc., that he knows that he's going to get nothing from. So that gives me a wee bit of hope around him having, that sort of quietly spoken exterior, but a wee bit more steel behind him.
Yeah, and Dukes, lastly, the importance, and I think we all agree on this, the importance of having big booming voices in as much as anything else in January is so critical now, isn't it?
It is. I'm just going to talk about the management team for a second as well, right? So Danny Rowell should be in there tearing strips off them. See if there's not a leadership group amongst the players, it's up to the manager to step up and do it, right? You can't be everyone's best friend. He needs to show that steel that even Andrew Kavanagh said he has. Also, we heard that we were going to appoint some local assistant to Danny Rowell to support. Where is he? We've got Stevie Smith there, who knows the league, who should be guiding Danny Rowell to tell him what to expect at Tynecastle. We should be having somebody in that dressing room beside Danny Rowell who knows the football club, who's got that leadership, who's got that, you mentioned, Scott, earlier on around that trophy cabinet that commands that respect. Someone like a Stephen Davis in that dressing room, and a Kevin Thompson in there at full time today would be telling everybody that today's performance was not good enough. I think there's a few things we need in January. I think we should be still looking to appoint somebody to support Danny Rowell, who has that Scottish element and who knows the club. But come January, you're absolutely right. We need to be signing some guys who are experienced and who are winners. But where we go and get them, that's up to the club to go and find them, and that's what we do. Because I tell you what, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching right now that are probably in the same boat as me. It's depressing watching Rangers. See the thought of going to watch us against Motherwell and St Mirren on the 27th and the 30th, and giving up time with my family to go and watch us. Like, football's meant to be a fun sport where we go and enjoy it. It's meant to be a hobby. It's a real chore right now following Rangers. So hopefully we get some improvements in the door in January that actually know what it takes to play for this football club and actually bring a smile back in our faces. Because I get criticised earlier on for my lack of attire. I've got my Bah Humbug hat. If we'd have won today, I would have worn my Super Ali Christmas jumper. If only we had players like that.
Dougie, just a quick one though. On the 27th and the 30th, don't forget, mate, those 2 hours peace and quiet that your wife and kids get for you is the biggest Christmas present you can give them.
I think there's a lot of listeners right now that are praying that I also give them peace and quiet in the next couple of pods.
It's not even unfair, by the way, Rob. It's absolutely spot on. Dougie, it's always good to have you on, buddy. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully next time we're on we'll win and I can actually be joyful in the spirit of Christmas.
I know. A Sunday night where we're actually celebrating for one reason or another. Sheryl, good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you. But do you know what? I think tomorrow's going to get even worse for me because I'm out on my Christmas night in the capital with Hearts supporters.
Oh, wow. That could be a long...
It could be
Ouch.
long.
Yeah. Rob, good to have you on, buddy. Thanks for coming back.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Scotty, and have a happy Christmas, everybody.
Yes, indeed. Good Christmas to you all. I should say that 2025 has been quite a mad year as far as covering Rangers is concerned. Sort of Clement and then Russell Martin and then Rule. I think from a personal perspective, it's been good to sort of return to four lads and get together with you guys again. So I'm really grateful for the assistance and the help that you guys have given us since we came back. Great to be back and look forward to... I don't know what we look forward to actually now moving forward. I certainly hope that there is something to sort of enjoy from January onwards. As I alluded to, this is our last podcast on the Sunday night between now and the end of the year. And I should thank our sponsors for looking after us this season. The Local Dart Shop, you can get them at allthews.localdartshop.co.uk. All things darts and accessories, installation with board, lights, etc. for your local pubs, clubs, at home or in your function halls. These guys will keep you on target. Elsewhere, the pod sponsors for the duration of the season continue to be CSD Air Conditioning, Black Rooster, Athol Industrial Solutions, Candy, Rhino Express and Art of Gold. And we're really grateful for their support. I think the only thing that remains to be said from me is I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas with your people when it comes. And we will catch up with you again in the new year. That's all for now. Good night.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited and CSD Air Conditioning in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.